You wake up to the scent of damp earth clinging to your nostrils. The air is thick, heavier near the floor, where the cold of night still lingers. The faint orange glow of coals smoulders in the pit beside you, painting soft shadows on the cavern wall, long, flickering shapes that echo the memories of ancestors. The ceiling is uneven above your head, low enough to touch in some parts, rising into dark vaults you rarely dare explore. This place is your shelter, not just walls, but womb. The cave wraps around you like the embrace of the mountain itself. You were born here. You bled here. You've listened to the breath of the wind echoing through these stony lungs. And when the thunder rages outside, it's here that you huddle with the others, skin against skin, heartbeat against heartbeat. The entrance is wide, but angled. Wind and rain must fight to reach you. A stone slab rests near the opening, rolled there with effort, used to block out the coldest nights. The scent of smoke clings to every surface, a testament to many years of fire and cooking, of fat sizzling, of marrow bones cracked open and sucked dry in the far corner. Moss and dried grasses soften the ground. They are not beds as one might think of them, but they are chosen carefully, layered and replaced when the scent grows too pungent, or when lice begin to bite. The fire pit is always near the center, tended with care. Fire is not guaranteed. It must be guarded. On some walls, your people have left stories, red ochre and black charcoal, smeared with fingers, traced with sticks. Herds of bison, spirals, hands, so many hands, ghost-like, pressed against the stone, as if even after death they might wish to return to this shelter. This home. The cave offers protection, from wind, from predators, from the endless rain, but it offers something else too, something deeper. It feels remembered, as if the stone holds the memory of every voice that ever cried out here. Every whisper in the dark, when you are alone. It does not feel empty. It feels vast, like you are being watched. And maybe that's comfort. Still, caves are not eternal. Sometimes water drips too much, or the ceiling groans in ways that make your skin crawl. Sometimes the bear finds its way in before you do, or the rot of too many bodies makes breathing foul. Sometimes you must leave, walk into the open, and build something with your own hands. You've learned to listen to the cave, not just with your ears, but with your skin, your bones, your breath. You know the difference between a drop of water and the scurry of claws. You know when the air grows still, when the damp grows sharp, when something unseen has shifted. Deep within, this is not fear, it is presence in the cave. You are never unaware. Your senses extend into shadow. When night falls and the fire dims, the blackness becomes whole. You cannot see your own hand, but you can feel the rhythm of the others around you, the gentle rise and fall of sleep, the occasional murmur, the shift of limbs. Even your own heartbeat sounds louder here. In that darkness, you feel both protected and exposed, as if the stone is holding you, but also listening in the cold seasons. The cave becomes crowded. The fire burns longer. The breath of many bodies warms the air. Thickens it. You share everything, not just space, but warmth, illness, dreams. You begin to see faces in the flickering light, not human faces, older ones, carved by water and time into the walls and ceiling, watching you, maybe warning, maybe welcoming. You touch the wall often, as if seeking reassurance. It is smooth in some places, sharp in others. You begin to know its texture better than skin. You memorize each crevice, each place where soot stains the rock like a wound. It is your map, your anchor, when you are lost in thought or in memory. You return to it, hand open, pressing into the silence. Outside, the world is vast and indifferent, but inside, within the curve of this stone heart, you are held. This is not simply a roof over your head. It is an agreement between you and the earth, between you and the night, that if you respect the stone, if you listen, if you breathe with it, it will not forget you. Your feet crunch softly on frost-hardened ground. Around you, wind screams across a treeless plain, endless white, broken only by the low humps of snow-covered shelters. You squint against the brightness. The cold gnaws through the seams of your furs, biting at your wrists, your cheeks, your eyelids. You walk faster. Your home is not stone now. It is sinew and skin, stretched tight over a frame of mammoth bones, scavenged, traded, inherited, every rib, every femur placed with intention, curved to form a dome, angled to shed the snow. The hides are stitched together with gut string, sealed with to keep out the wind inside. It is warmer. The cold remains. Yes, but subdued. A background hum beneath the crackling fire. Smoke seeps through a hole in the roof, or through seams that never truly seal. Still, here you can sit, you can exhale, you can survive. The floor is layered with hide, old reindeer skin, softer underfoot than bare ground. Here, the space is intimate. You know every curve of the frame, every worn spot where the wind always finds a way in. You know the scent of the pelts, the stink of tallow, the sweat of 5 bodies packed close through winter's worst. Nothing is wasted. Bone becomes peg, hide becomes door. Even the warmth of the bodies is a resource, not to be taken lightly. There is no fire too large, no space too wide. Every heat must be trapped, held, conserved. The home can be moved, if needed, dismantled and carried on sleds. But it takes time, it takes effort, and the memory of storms, of frozen breath and shriveled toes, urges you to stay as long as you can. When you step out again, the vastness swallows you, but inside, beneath the arch of bone and skin, the world becomes small, manageable. Yours, the wind does not stop, even when it calms, even when you think it's gone. You feel it, a low hum in your jaw, a pressure behind your eyes. It never truly leaves. Your shelter bends slightly with every gust, groaning with the tension of stretched hide and frozen bone. But it holds, it always holds, because it was made to yield, not resist. When the snow comes, it arrives sideways, driven, biting, weightless and yet heavy in its accumulation. You rise before dawn to clear the drifts from the outer wall. You check the lashings, tighten the sinew cords, press your hand to each seam. There is no room for carelessness. The shelter must breathe, but never break. Inside, the darkness is welcome. You light a small flame, just enough to chase the edge of frost. The walls glow faintly, tanned hide, darkened with years of smoke. Above you, tools hang bone hooks, horn spoons, carved needles. Everything has a place, not from habit, but from necessity. To lose something here is to lose time, and time, in the tundra, is warmth. You speak softly indoors. Voices carry too easily in close space. Instead, you communicate in glances, in gestures, in breaths shared under a blanket. You feel each other's presence more than you hear it, and that closeness becomes your defense. Against the cold, against despair, the shelter becomes not just protection from the outside, but from the silence within. Even the scent of the place becomes sacred. Smoke, fat, dry, fur, blood. These are not unpleasant. They are memory. They are survival. You breathe them in and remember every night you've survived. Every child born. Every winter overcome. The walls are made of bone and skin. Yes, but what holds them upright is ritual, is story, is endurance. The forest hums, not with silence, but with life so constant and layered that it becomes a kind of lullaby. You feel it in the underbrush, the skittering of rodents, the distant echo of bird call, the creak of trees swaying like old giants. The canopy above breaks the sunlight into mosaics, dappling your dwelling in warm and cool patches that shift throughout the day. Your house here is neither stone nor skin. It is wood, split and shaped by stone axe, lashed with cordage, stripped from bark, sealed with clay and moss. The frame is arched or angled, often lean -2, always low. The walls are thickened with wattle, woven branches coated in sticky earth, dried to hardness. The roof, layered with leaves, boughs, even turf, sheds rain and holds heat. You dug slightly into the earth, creating a shallow hollow, not enough to flood, just enough to trap warmth. The hearth at the center is ringed with stone, small but constant. The smoke sometimes hovers, especially when the air is heavy. Your eyes sting, but the fire dries. The dampness wards off the crawling things, marks this place as human. Outside, the forest hides you, but it also threatens. Bears, wolves, men, they all move between the trunks. You listen for the silence. That's the warning sign. When the birds stop, when the wind changes. But inside, it is a world of your own making. The walls absorb your breath. The timbers bend to your will. You patch the cracks, replace the roof, reshape the frame when it sags. It is not a cave gifted by the earth. It is yours, built by hand, claimed by effort. And when you sleep, curled on a bed of dry leaves and animal skin, with smoke curling above and the whisper of the forest beyond, you feel something rare, not just survival, but mastery. When the rain begins, it comes softly at first, a whisper through the canopy, a hush in the leaves, then louder, heavier, a roar that pounds the roof like drumming hands. Inside, you sit near the hearth, watching water streak down the bark-covered walls, grateful for every branch laid true, every seam sealed with moss and care. Your tools hang from the ceiling beams, stone axes, baskets, snares. Everything smells of resin and smoke, of earth clinging to feet, of crushed leaves. You spend hours shaping new planks, splitting them by hand, sanding them with stone. The work is slow, but it teaches you the grain of the tree, the voice of wood, the patience of roots in the warm seasons. The door is always open. Breezes drift through, carrying the scent of fern and soil, sometimes of flowers. You watch deer pass at dawn, barely a sound. You know which ones are curious, which are old. You've seen them for years. Your home is part of this rhythm now, not separate from the forest, but woven into its breath. When trees fall in storms, You walk the land with reverence. Not every trunk is taken. You listen for cracks, for rot, for spirit. The forest gives, but only to those who ask without greed. Each timber used in your shelter was chosen not just for strength, but for balance. You believe you know that a home made without respect will collapse, and at night, when the fire is low and the owl calls from above, you lie down on your bed of dry leaves and pelts, the scent of pine and ash in your nostrils. The roof creaks, branches above sway gently, and your shelter becomes part of the forest's song. It is not a wall against nature. It is a verse within it. You press your hand against the wall of your shelter. It is hot, not from fire, but from the sun, which has scorched the outer layer of earth and read with its long silent fingers. The wall is dry, cracked in places, like the skin on your heels. You can hear the wind outside. It hisses across the plain, lifting dust in thin spirals, brushing the thorn bushes until they rattle like bones. This is a land where water flees the ground, where shade is more valuable than meat, where the wind is older than you and carries sand from places you have never seen. Your house here is light, portable, not meant to last more than a season, sometimes not more than a week. It is built from branches, acacia, when you can find it, bent into arches and tied together with fiber over this frame. You stretch mats woven from reeds, grass, sometimes animal skin, thick enough to block the worst of the sun, thin enough to let the heat escape. Inside, it is dim. The air still moves, but slower, softer. You sit cross-legged on a mat of dry leaves, sipping water from a hollowed gourd, careful with every drop. The floor is earth, but swept smooth. You keep the hearth outside. No fire inside this shell, not with such heat. The smoke would suffocate. The shelter casts a long shadow. That is its gift in this world. To block the sun is to create a sanctuary. You share the space with insects, lizards, and the sound of your own breath. Sometimes, when the wind is kind, you feel the fabric walls shift, almost like breathing at night, when the cold sneaks in, for even here, night brings teeth. You huddle under a blanket of hide, listening to the jackal's call. Your shelter flutters. It is fragile, but so are you, and still it stands. The morning sun arrives without mercy. It does not rise, it strikes by. The time you step outside, the world is already bright, sharp, blinding. The air shimmers. The thorns around your shelter cast long, delicate shadows like bones beneath skin. Every step crunches. Every movement must be slow. You learn to read the wind. It is not just background, it is map. Messenger, warning. When it shifts, it brings sand from the north. When it cools, you know night is near. You arrange your shelter with this in mind. The entrance always away from the fiercest gusts. The mats laid at an angle to breathe, not burn. Inside. The heat is trapped in layers. You do not fight it. You flow with it. You drink little, move less, wait often. The floor, swept daily, becomes your most trusted surface. You sit. You lie. You work upon it. Fire is made only when needed. Smoke disappears too fast. Wood is too precious. Every ember is sacred. Your walls are patched with care. Reeds, brittle with age, are replaced gently. Cord is tightened when it frays. There is no shame in fragility. There is only wisdom in maintenance. You do not strive to make something permanent. You strive to make something right for this moment, for this wind, for this sun. At dusk, the world cools suddenly. You feel it in your bones. The sky shifts to amber, and your shelter glows from within. The reed walls catch the light like thin gold skin. In that glow, surrounded by the murmur of the plain, you are not exposed. You are cradled, and the wind, at last, becomes a lullaby. The river speaks in rhythms, slow, heavy gulps and sharp splashes, frogs calling from the banks, insects singing in layers upon layers of sound. You know this voice. You've grown up by it. The world here is green and wet and breathing. Always breathing, your home is lifted, off the ground, held by poles cut from strong trees, straight, stripped, sharpened. The ground is too soft, too alive. It swallows. So you rise above it. The frame is lashed together with vines, thick and supple, tightened until they squeak. The walls are woven palm, the roof thatched with wide leaves layered like scales. When it rains, and it always rains, the sound is deafening, but you stay dry. The roof bends but does not break. Inside, the air is thick. You sweat even while resting. The smell of wood rot clings to the floor, mixed with smoke, fish, and something deeper, a scent you cannot name. But that lives in every beam and crevice. You sleep on a raised platform, away from the crawling things. You hang your tools. You string shells near the doorway, not for beauty, but for sound, so they speak if something enters. Fire, here, is sacred and dangerous. The wood is never dry. You coax it to life with patience, nurse it with resin and bark. Smoke escapes through gaps in the roof, curling upward into the canopy. Sometimes birds come close, sometimes snakes. The forest watches, always. It presses close, its vines reaching, its branches whispering. But your home stands light, flexible, held together by skill and memory. It is not a fortress. It is a negotiation. You rise each morning to the voice of the river. Not a single sound, but a symphony of flow. Splash, hum. The current never ceases. It shapes your days, dictates your tasks. You check the stilts of your shelter before anything else. The water level changes quickly. The river gives and takes. You must always be watching. Your feet are calloused from walking on damp boards. The floor never fully dries. You step carefully, avoiding soft patches, alert to creaks that might signal rot. You repair as you live, always replacing, always tying new fiber, always testing with your weight. Your shelter is not aging. It is evolving. The jungle presses close. Vines reach toward you. Insects invade with the dusk. Birds perch on your roof and cry out before dawn. Your shelter is a thin boundary. You are never far from the wild, but you are not afraid. You are part of it. The walls do not shut the forest out. They filter it, soften it, allow just enough to enter at night. You lie still on your mat, surrounded by the slow dripping of rain, the clicking of geckos, the distant croak of toads. The air inside is thick, fragrant with the scent of wet wood and cooking smoke. You feel each breath as if through water. You do not seek dryness. You seek balance between wet and warmth, life and decay. And when storms come, sudden and violent, you do not run, you brace. You wait. The roof roars. The stilts sway. The floor vibrates with thunder. but it holds, because it was made not to resist the jungle, but to move with it, to yield, to dance, to endure. You kneel beside the wall, hands slick with wet earth. The smell is strong, clay and straw, sweat and sun. You press the mixture into the space between sticks, smoothing it with your fingers. It dries fast under this sun, cracking just slightly. You pat it again. This is not just shelter. This is settlement. The house is square. That alone feels strange. A shape with corners, with lines that do not bend to the world. The walls are thick, made from a lattice of wood filled with mud. The roof is flat, packed with more earth, sometimes planted with small things, herbs, flowers, life. It insulates. It cools. It belongs inside. The space is open but defined. You have sections now, places for sleeping, for storing, for gathering. The hearth is built into the floor, ringed by stone. The smoke escapes through a hole in the roof, and sometimes, so do the voices of your stories. The floor is swept daily. The walls are repaired as needed. This home does not move. It must be maintained. That is the trade. But in return, it gives you something rare. Predictability, a center outside. Others build nearby, a cluster, a village. Children run between doorways. Elders sit in shade. There is rhythm now, seasons marked not by departure, but by return. This house is not just shelter. It is beginning to become identity. You press your thumb into the drying wall. It leaves a small dent. Still soft, you smooth it out. Gently, reverently. This house is your making, but it also begins to make you. You measure days by the hardness of the clay, the curing of the beams, the fading of the smell of wet earth into something more stable, more home-like. When the rains come, the roof darkens but does not leak. The walls hold. You listen to the patter of droplets on the earth-packed ceiling and feel a peace unlike any you knew in a world of travel. There is power in stillness, in building not for the journey, but for the return. You carve a shallow pit in the corner to store grain, another for ash. You craft shelves with woven bark, baskets for meat, alcoves for tools. Your dwelling is not just shelter, it is order. It is memory embedded in walls. You know where the light falls in the morning, where the wind enters in the evening. Your house begins to speak. Neighbors gather, closer than before. A cluster of houses forms like a constellation, each structure a star tied by paths and firelight. Children weave between them. Elders lean against walls, watching. You are no longer one among trees or rock. You are one among others within. Walls that reflect your hands, your thoughts, your name. And yet, when you lie down at night, ear against the earth-packed floor, you still hear it, the murmur of roots beneath, the echo of movement through soil. The house is not an end. It is a bridge between the old world of wandering and a new rhythm of return, of hearth, of home. The ground is water, not always, but enough. Pools that swell after the rain. Mud that grabs at ankles. Reeds that hum with insects and wind. So you build above your homestands on stilts tall, straight trunks driven into the soft earth, reaching above the floodline. The platform is wide, lashed tight. The walls are simple, woven grass, bark, sometimes thin planks split from trees. The roof is steep, meant to shed the rain that comes hard and fast, drumming like fists. Ladders lead up, not always safe, but necessary. You pull them up, at night or when strangers approach. Below, the water teems with life, fish, frogs, sometimes things that watch with glowing eyes. You hear them at night, inside, ... It is clean, dry, air moves freely. The hearth is small, kept inside. A clay bowl or raised on stones to avoid the wood below. You sleep on mats, close to the wall, listening to the water shift beneath you. In this world, everything is temporary. The storms come, the reeds die, the wood rots, but you repair, rebuild, raise it again. Home here is an act of resistance, against the water, a way to stay in one place, even when the land itself moves. The morning fog clings to everything. It rolls off the water, creeps between stilts, brushes against your skin with cool, wet fingers. You move carefully. The steps are slick, the rails damp. But you know this place. You've known it since your first crawl. Your feet were shaped. By this wood, your home stands not in defiance of the swamp, but in agreement with it. The stilts are sunk deep, into mud that breathes and swells. You check their depth with every season. Sometimes they must be replaced. Sometimes you let them rot. Let the land reclaim, then build anew. Decay is part of the plan. Inside, everything is raised. Storage, ... cooking, ... sleep. Nothing touches the floor that doesn't need to. The walls, made of woven reed and bark, allow light through in strips. At sunset, your home glows golden. You know that glow. You've seen it reflected in the water as boats pass quietly beneath. You keep the fire high, set on clay tiles, never on the floor. You feed it with driftwood, with twisted roots, with branches dried under the roof. The smoke coils upward, escapes through thatch. Sometimes birds nest in the rafters, sometimes snakes. You learn to share, to warn, to respect. And at night, when the wind shifts and the frogs begin their song, you lie still, listening to the creak of the stilts in the soft soil below. The water laps, gentle ... rhythmic. Your house breathes. It sways, but it does not fall. Because here, in this shifting, sinking world, your shelter is not a structure. It is a balance. The wind here does not whisper. It howls. It claws at your cheeks, tears at your cloak, and whistles between. The stones like a hungry animal. Your hands are cracked from the cold. Your breath rises in steady clouds, curling and disappearing into the thin air. The path to your shelter is steep, winding, broken by boulders, treacherous in rain or snow. But you know each turn, each foothold. Your home is built from stone, not carved, but chosen, lifted, carried, stacked. Each slab found near the mountain's foot, or pried loose from old landslides. You fit them together by shape and instinct. No mortar, just pressure, just time. The walls are thick, wide enough to trap warmth, tall enough to shield from the screaming sky. Gaps are filled with moss, with mud, with anything that might hold fast. The roof, if there is one, is made from turf, built over a frame of alpine branches lashed together and covered with sod. Sometimes it collapses under the snow. Sometimes you rebuild. You always rebuild. Inside, ... it is dark. The doorway is small. Low, you crawl through it. Not out of submission, but because that's how warmth is kept in. The fire smokes often. You poke at the embers, open a crack near the roof to let it escape. It never escapes completely. You cough, your eyes burn, but your body stays warm. Stone does not rot. It remembers, it stays. From your perch, you see the valleys below, forests far off, rivers like threads. You see the storm approaching long before it reaches you. This height is harsh, but it offers safety too. Few come here, few dare. You live among cliffs and mountain goats, the scrape of stone on stone echoing in the cold morning. And yet, you do not feel alone. The mountains hum beneath you, slow, eternal. And when your shelter groans in the wind, it is not fear you feel, but reverence. You have built in the spine of the world, and it holds you. You remember the first stones you lifted smaller than your hands, rough with lichen and ice. You carried them up the slope in a hide sack, knees buckling, fingers bleeding, not because you had to, but because the place demanded it. Flat ground was rare here, so you carved your own, with every stone placed. You were not just shaping a wall, you were speaking to the mountain, convincing it, little by little, that you belonged. The cold teaches in silence. It punishes mistakes with slowness, with loss of feeling, with sleep that arrives too early and stays too long. That is why your shelter must be perfect in its imperfection. Every crack sealed with care, every roof beam tested against the weight of snow. You do not build once, you build always, rebuild, adjust, mourn and repair. This is not labor, it is ritual. Your hands remember even when your thoughts drift. There are nights when the wind becomes voice, not words, but something older. It rattles your door and scrapes against the stones like fingernails. You do not answer it. You huddle near the hearth, wrapped in furs, watching the orange light flicker on the walls. You think of those who came before you, their footprints lost, their shelters crumbled into cairns and moss. You wonder if the mountain remembers them. To dot sometimes, dot you find feathers on your roof, or hoof prints near the path, signs that you are not alone. Even up here, the beasts come for warmth, for shelter. For salt left by your sweat. You share space not just with kin, but with the world itself. Your home is not isolation, it is interface, a fragile skin stretched between you and the vast ancient breath of the peaks. And when spring arrives, slow and reluctant, bringing meltwater and green patches on the slopes, you open the door wider. You let in light. The stones, warmed by sun for the first time in months, begin to smell like earth again. And in that scent, damp, mineral, clean, you are reminded that survival here is not conquest, it is communion. The smoke rises slowly, straight into the sky. The air is still, heavy with the scent of roasting roots and drying meat around you. Others move, not strangers, not even just people. They are your kin. Every face here has been with you since before memory. Every voice is a thread in the same woven cloth. The homes are circular, not by chance, by tradition. Round walls hold warmth. Round walls hold people. The outer frame is made of saplings, bent into a dome and tied tight. Over this, layers of bark, reed, skin, earth, depending on what the land gives. Inside, the space is shared. There are no corners to hide in, no sharp edges to separate. The hearth is central, always. Fire is the axis of the world. Around it, you sit, you speak, You eat, you sing. Embers flicker in the eyes of children. Shadows play across the walls, shaped like ancestors. Each dwelling belongs to a family, but the village is one body. Paths connect every home. Storage. Pits are shared. Tools pass from hand to hand. Even grief is communal. When someone dies, all voices rise. When someone is born, all hands cradle. The walls are thick with life stains from soot and oil, scratches from tools, the pressed shapes of many bodies sleeping close. You know where every draft enters, where the roof leaks in heavy rain, where the dog always curls at night. You wake each morning to the sound of others, not loud, just present. A grinding stone, a whispered prayer, a baby's cry, the gentle cough of an elder stoking the morning fire. And when you step outside, the circle opens around you, a world of woven homes, standing stones, drying racks, and voices. You are not just alive, you are among. The shelter is not yours alone. It is part of the great whole, a structure of belonging. There is no such thing as solitude in the circle. Your breath always overlaps with others. Your stories never end with your own voice. They are picked up by another, added to, redirected, remembered in these homes. Time moves not in hours or seasons, but in births, in deaths, in shared meals. You mark the passage of days, not with sun or shadow, but with laughter and smoke. Children do not ask who built their shelter. They have always known it is not one person's creation, but the inheritance of hundreds. Each wall has been patched by many hands, each mat laid by someone who now sleeps elsewhere. The roof is layered with memories, and even the bones that hold up the frame feel softened by the weight of generations. You do not live alone. You inhabit a continuity. When someone falls ill, they are not moved away. The others draw closer. Fires are lit hotter. Songs are sung. Lower, you share the burden of healing as you do everything else. When a child cries, any hand may soothe it. When food is scarce, no belly stays full unless all are fed. The shelter reflects this ethos, round, open, warm, not built to defend, but to embrace. You remember nights of rain when the thatch leaked and everyone shifted together, mats pulled tighter, shoulders touching, fire guarded with shields of wood and cloak. And yet no one cursed the storm. It was expected. What mattered was the closeness, the feeling of many bodies breathing as one. You slept better then, even in discomfort, because safety was not the absence of threat. It was the presence of kin. Outside, the shelters seem simple, but inside, they are sacred, not with altars or symbols, but with repetition. Every act of cooking, of mending, of feeding the fire is a ceremony. Every morning, the same motion, the same rhythm. It is not monotony. It is meaning, a world where your place is known not by name, but by Ness. N-E-S-S. There is no single home, no perfect form, no final design, only the echo of a need, ancient, wordless, deep. The need to draw a line between out there and in here, between danger and safety, between the wild and the warm. You have lived in caves, pressed against the heart of the mountain. You have felt the weight of stone above your head, the cool of the earth beneath your back, the red shadows dancing like spirits on the walls. You have stood on frozen plains, clutching skins drawn tight over bones. listening to the wind tear at the edges of your fragile dome. You have watched the rain hammer palm leaves, smelled the smoke rise through woven thatch, felt the floor of your stilted home tremble beneath your feet. You have built with hands, with fire, with memory, not just to survive, but to anchor, to say, here, this is where I endure, this is where I remember. Each shelter bore the mark of its world. The tundra bred tight domes and sealed seams. The jungle gave rise to homes of light and breath. The mountain demanded stone, the desert shade, the floodplain, elevation. Each climate spoke, and you answered with walls, with hearths, with shelter, but beyond the materials, beyond. The clay, the hide, the branch, the stone, was something older still. The feeling, that moment when the door flapped closed, and the fire crackled, and the storm outside became distant. That sensation, not of possession, but of presence, of having a place that knew you. And in that place, you made more than warmth. You made stories, songs, grief and laughter, tools and names, identity. The shelter became an extension of your spirit, and when it fell, crushed by snow, burned by lightning, flooded by river, you grieved, and you began again, because shelter is not structure, it is declaration, a whisper to the world that you exist, that you will remain, that the wind may rage, the beasts may prowl, the rain may fall, but you will build. You will claim a space for breath, for sleep, for life. Even now, across time and forgetting, the memory of those shelters lingers, in stone rings, half buried, in cave walls painted with fire, in the shape of the wind around a standing post. In your bones, the first home was not a place, it was a promise, and you are still keeping it. The first time you sheltered under a fallen tree, drenched and shivering, you did not know you were beginning something eternal. You only knew that the branches curved like arms, and that beneath them the rain slowed. That was enough. Shelter was born not in grand constructions, but in that instinct to step out of the storm, to claim a space, however small, where breath could come without fear. Through time, that space grew, from hollow logs to caves, from hides over branches to domes of bone, from pits in the earth to walls of woven reed and fire-hardened clay. Each version not a replacement, but an evolution, an echo reshaped by terrain, by need, by hand, and yet, through all of it, the feeling remained. Here, I live. That was the true architecture. Even now, you carry that memory in your bones, in the way you arrange your tools, in how your fingers trace the edge of the hearth each night, in the silence before sleep, when all sounds fade and only the fire remains. The shelter is not just around you, it is within you, a structure of habit, of comfort, of sacred repetition. You do not just build homes, homes build you. In their spaces, you learn rhythm. In their warmth, you learn care. In their darkness, you face dreams. And in their ruin, for all homes fall, you learn the deepest truth, that shelter is not permanence. It is persistence. It is the act of returning, of reshaping, of lighting the fire again. And so, even now, even always, you gather the stones, you bind the wood, you stretch the skin, you press mud into cracks, not because it will last forever, but because, for a while, it will hold. And in that holding, in that brief defiance of cold and time and silence, you find what it means to be human, not a builder, not a survivor, but a rememberer of shelter and a keeper of fire.